Hi there. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. Grab a seat, because what I'm about to tell you doesn't start with love. It starts with silence. Not poetic silence. Not the romantic kind where two people stare at each other across a candlelit table and know everything without saying a word. No, this was the heavy kind. The kind that fills a kitchen at 8:03 p.m. when the microwave beeps and no one moves. The kind where your throat itches, but you don't clear it, because even that feels too loud. I was standing by the fridge, still wearing my badge from work, still holding a plastic bag from the grocery store, almond milk and 3 bananas, because she said she was cutting back. She sat at the table with her hair tied back and a perfectly blank face. Her phone was upside down. That should have been the first sign. I placed the bag on the counter. She looked up and said, "I don't want to kiss you anymore." Just like that. Like she was telling me the printer was out of ink. I think I nodded. I don't even remember. Something in me flickered, like the last second before a candle dies. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to ask if this was a joke. I wanted to laugh or cry or just slam the fridge door so loud it shook the cabinets. But I just stood there, blinking. Like a fool. She didn't blink. She just got up, walked past me, and said over her shoulder, "I'll be in the bath. Please don't come in." So I didn't. I stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the condensation running down the milk carton. There was something so stupid about that, just watching milk sweat while your marriage falls apart. And I must have been there 5 minutes before the front door creaked open. I didn't expect anyone, but it was her sister, Ren. Ren doesn't knock. Ren doesn't text. Ren just arrives. And that night, she did just that. Walked in like the place still belonged to her. She used to live here for a few months last year, during what she called her spiritual upheaval. Left a crystal on every shelf and painted one of our mugs black for chaos energy. I hated how much I remembered all of that. She looked at me, paused, then asked, "Why do you look like a kicked puppy?" I didn't answer. She stepped closer, still wearing her beat-up boots and leather jacket that smelled like cinnamon gum and something floral I could never name. Then, without blinking, without a smile, without even a joke, she leaned in and whispered, "Because I really want to kiss you." I flinched, thought I misheard. I asked, "What did you say?" She leaned in closer, her voice low enough to press against my spine. I heard what she said. "I wouldn't say that to you. I wouldn't even think it." I stepped back, hit the counter. My hands were shaking. She didn't kiss me. She didn't touch me. She just walked past, grabbed a set of tarot cards she'd left in the drawer last year, turned around once more, and said, "You should ask yourself why she stopped wanting you, and why I never did." Then she left. Quiet. No door slam. No smirk. Just gone. And I stood there in the kitchen, holding almond milk in one hand, and the idea of her lips in my mind. That night, I barely slept. Not just because of what Leona said, or what Ren whispered, but because I felt like I'd crossed into a version of reality I didn't recognize. The kind where nothing feels real, but everything hurts. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the bathroom light leaked under the door across the hall. She stayed in there for over an hour. Water ran for 30 minutes. No music, no humming, just water and walls between us. At 1:14 a.m., I heard her footsteps pad past the door. No pause. No checking if I was still awake. She went straight into the guest room. Again, this had become a pattern. Some nights, she'd use back pain as an excuse. Other nights, she just wouldn't say anything. The distance between us was no longer metaphorical. It was hallway length. But what haunted me wasn't the silence. It was the echo of Ren's voice. "I wouldn't say that to you. I wouldn't even think it." She wasn't joking, and I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. The next morning was colder than usual. Not the temperature, just the energy. Leona was already dressed and pouring coffee when I came into the kitchen. Her back was to me. She was wearing that gray blazer she always paired with a smile when she was pretending to be perfect in front of clients. She didn't turn around when I said good morning. Ren stopped by. I muttered, grabbing the cereal box even though I wasn't hungry. "I know," she said, her voice sharp. She texted me. I waited. Nothing followed. No mention of the whisper. No hint that she suspected anything. I almost told her. Almost blurted out, "Your sister said she wants to kiss me," just to shatter the quiet. But I didn't. Instead, I asked her a question I never thought I'd ask. "Do you still want to be married to me?" She finally turned around, coffee mug in hand. Her eyes were dull, like frostbitten glass. And then she gave me a smile so fake, so polished, it made my stomach ache. Of course I do, Gilbert. Why would you ask that? Because you don't kiss me. Because you don't even look at me. Because last night, your sister made me feel like I existed and you haven't in months. But I didn't say any of that. I just nodded, stirred my cereal, let the milk soak into the flakes while the silence pressed harder against my ribs. Then she said something I didn't expect. Ren's staying in town for a few days. She might crash here. My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. Crash here? Like here? Leona shrugged. It's better than her couch hopping. Just don't let her get in your head. My head. That phrase hit wrong. Like she already knew something had happened. Like she was warning me, not because she cared, but because she was trying to stay in control. Ren always made her uncomfortable. They were polar opposites. And deep down, I think Leona feared the one thing she couldn't manipulate, someone wild enough to be honest. Ren arrived later that night, with a suitcase that looked more like a guitar case and a half-eaten bag of marshmallows. She gave me a smirk when she saw me and said, "You still look like a ghost, Gib cute." I wanted to say something clever, something that would brush her off, set boundaries. But instead, I stood there like a kid caught between parents, heart pounding, face flushed, already anticipating the disaster I couldn't look away from. We set her up in the guest room, the same one Leona had been sleeping in. When she saw the toiletries and pillow already laid out, Ren raised an eyebrow. "Your wife's been in here?" she asked. I nodded, unsure how much I should say. Ren looked at the bed, then at me. "So she doesn't want to kiss you, and she doesn't want to sleep next to you. Are you sure she wants to be married at all?" I didn't answer, because the silence said more than I could. She stepped closer, not like she was going to touch me, but like she could. Like the idea was already in the room, even if we pretended it wasn't. Her presence made everything feel unsteady, and thrilling, and wrong. Then she smiled. "You've always been too nice for her, you know. That's your whole problem." I swallowed hard. Is that supposed to be a compliment? No, it's a confession. She walked into the guest room and closed the door behind her. And once again, I was alone, holding nothing, saying nothing. But this time, I wanted to open the door. I spent the next few days walking around my own house like I was tiptoeing through someone else's life. Ren's suitcase sat in the hallway like a detonator, and every time she moved, every time I heard her voice or caught a glimpse of her bare feet padding across the hardwood, something inside me twisted. I hated that. I hated how aware I was of her, of how my body responded to her presence without permission. And yet, I couldn't stop looking. Couldn't stop listening for her voice even when I pretended not to. Leona acted like nothing was wrong. She breezed through the house with her perfect hair and cold stares, asking robotic questions about bills and Wi-Fi, and if I'd seen her navy heels. We didn't talk about that night. We didn't talk about anything. But every morning, the bed beside me was still untouched, and every night, she locked the door to the guest room, her guest room, while her sister slept 3 feet away in the living room, snoring softly on our old couch like she'd done it 100 times before. The tension was unreal. And then it snapped. It was a Friday night, and Leona had gone to a colleague dinner. She didn't invite me. She didn't even ask if I had plans. Just tossed on a dress I hadn't seen in a year, low cut, black, the one that made me nervous the first time she wore it, and walked out without saying goodbye. I sat on the couch, watching some dumb cooking show with the volume too loud, pretending I didn't care that she left me behind like an umbrella she wasn't sure she'd need. Ren came out of the guest room wearing one of Leona's hoodies and a pair of ripped leggings. Her hair was up in a messy bun, and she was eating peanut butter straight from the jar with a knife. "You look like you just got dumped," she said, flopping down beside me, pulling her legs under her like she owned the place. I didn't answer. I was too busy pretending to care about soufflés. She leaned in. "Want to talk about it?" "No." "Then you definitely need to." I sighed. I don't know what to say anymore. She barely speaks to me. She doesn't touch me. I think she's just waiting for me to end it so she can play victim. Ren tilted her head and studied me like I was a puzzle. "You're not wrong. Leona hates being the bad guy. Always has. She'd rather bleed you out slowly and then act shocked when you die." I swallowed. Hard. "You really think she's done with me?" Ren didn't answer right away. Instead, she took another bite of peanut butter and stared at the screen like it held secrets. Then she said, "I think she's already gone. She's just waiting for the moment she can walk out without feeling guilty." I laughed bitterly. Great. That's comforting. Want me to lie to you instead? I looked at her, really looked at her. For the first time, I saw more than just the chaos. I saw sadness. Buried deep under the sarcasm and swagger, there was something honest and lonely. It mirrored me in a way that Leona never had. I just want someone to tell me the truth, I muttered. Ren put the jar down, turned to face me. Her eyes were steady. Okay, truth? I've always thought she didn't deserve you. You think that makes me awful? Maybe. But I watched you fix her stupid printer at midnight while she flirted with her coworker on speakerphone. I saw the way you looked at her when she wasn't looking back. You give too much. You always have. And she takes because she knows you won't stop. I didn't know what to say. No one had ever said that to me. Not like that. Not with so much certainty. And then she did something that rattled me. She reached out and touched my hand. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. But it was warm. Real. Her fingers grazed mine gently, like she was testing how close she could get before I pulled away. I didn't. I think you need to decide if you're waiting for her to come back, she whispered. Or if you're already gone too and just scared to admit it. We sat like that for too long. Silence between us, but not the bad kind. The kind that felt like possibility. Then we heard the garage door. Leona was home. Ren pulled her hand back instantly. I stood up too fast and nearly knocked over the remote. She gave me a look, something unreadable, a mix of apology and challenge, and retreated back to the guest room without a word. Leona walked in with smudged lipstick and the smell of wine on her coat. She looked at me, expressionless, and said, "Still awake?" Yeah. She didn't ask why. She didn't care. She just disappeared into the bathroom again. Door locked. Water running. But this time, I didn't stand by and wait. I knocked once, then opened the door anyway. The bathroom was filled with steam and lavender. The kind of overwhelming floral fog you'd expect in a hotel spa or overpriced boutique. But behind the scent was something else, something sharp, raw, like nerves rubbed down to the bone. When I opened the door, I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe Leona crying. Maybe just sitting on the edge of the tub, waiting for me to beg her for something I didn't even understand anymore. What I didn't expect was the phone in her hand. She was standing there, fully dressed, back to the mirror, holding her phone with both hands. She hadn't heard me at first. Her earbuds were in. And it was the sound, that voice, that froze me where I stood. It was a man's voice. Low, intimate, laughing. Not in a casual way, in the kind of way you only hear when someone thinks they're alone with someone they want. I couldn't see the screen, but I could see her face. And that was enough. She smiled. Not a fake, surface-level grin. No, this smile had layers. That slow, soft kind that starts at the corner of your mouth and moves to your eyes. She looked alive, different. Not the distant, cold woman who had avoided me for months. This was someone I didn't recognize anymore. Someone who had saved all her warmth, all her laughter, for someone else's voice. I didn't say her name. I just let the door creak open a little wider. She turned fast, startled, yanked out one earbud, and nearly dropped the phone. Her expression didn't lie. Her body flinched with guilt. Her mouth opened, closed, then settled into that familiar sharp tone she always used when cornered. You can't just come in here like that. I took a step forward. I knocked. She folded her arms like a shield. I didn't hear you. I noticed, I said, glancing toward the phone still lit up in her hand. She moved it behind her back like a child hiding candy, but the damage was already done. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't demand to see it. Because I already knew. You don't need names when the truth hits you that fast and that hard. You just know. You said you didn't want to kiss me anymore, I said quietly. That's what you said. Leona looked away, then shook her head like she was tired of the conversation before it even began. This isn't what you think. I laughed. It was ugly, hollow. Then what is it? A friendly bedtime podcast? Some HR-approved flirtation warm-up for your next client pitch? Don't be dramatic, Gilbert, she snapped. That broke me. Something about the way she said my name like it was a burden. Like I was a burden. All this time, I kept thinking if I just tried harder, fixed more, gave more, stayed quiet longer, I could earn back her affection. But in that moment, I realized she didn't just fall out of love with me. She stopped seeing me entirely. And I said it. I'm done. Her eyes widened. Just for a second. And it hit me, she didn't think I'd ever say it. She thought I'd keep limping along forever, emotionally neutered and quietly miserable. But I'd reached the point where heartbreak stopped feeling like fear and started tasting like freedom. I turned and walked out, not even waiting for her to answer. And as I stepped back into the hallway, something strange happened. The guest room door cracked open. Just barely. A sliver of light, and Ren's voice followed. "You okay?" I nodded once. Just a small, pathetic gesture. But she saw everything. "Come here," she whispered. I hesitated. My heart was still thundering. Part of me felt like I was about to make a decision I couldn't unmake. Another part of me, the part that had been ignored, neglected, replaced, wanted to feel wanted. Just once. I stepped into the guest room and closed the door behind me. Ren was sitting on the edge of the bed in an oversized hoodie, legs crossed, hair down, face serious. Not seductive, not flirty, just present. More present than my wife had been in months. "She doesn't see you," she said softly. "But I do." I sat next to her, not speaking. My mind was racing, but I couldn't form a single clear thought. All I could do was feel that gnawing ache of betrayal and the undeniable pull of something I didn't have words for. She placed her hand gently on my knee. "I meant what I said, Gilbert." I turned toward her, but before I could ask what she meant, she leaned in, slow, cautious, and pressed her forehead against mine. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just closeness. The kind that feels like oxygen after you've been drowning. And I let her, because I wasn't ready for a new beginning. But I was ready for the ending to finally start. The morning after didn't start with guilt. It started with stillness. The kind of stillness that makes you second-guess if something even happened, like maybe it was a dream, some half-formed fantasy stitched together by exhaustion and betrayal. But it wasn't. I knew that the second I rolled over and saw Ren's hoodie folded neatly at the edge of the guest bed, right beside my shirt. She wasn't there, but her scent was. Something warm and strangely sweet, like cinnamon and static. I don't even know what that means, but that's how it felt. We didn't sleep together. Not in the way you're probably assuming. We laid beside each other, said too much without saying anything at all, and somewhere around 3 a.m. She placed her hand on my chest and whispered, "You deserve more than what she gave you." Or didn't. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because part of me still wanted to defend Leona, even after everything. Even after hearing that man's voice in her ear. Even after she shoved me out of the room with lies and avoidance. That was the pathetic part of me I hated most. The part that still craved her approval like a kicked dog waiting for a scrap. When I came downstairs, Ren was in the kitchen making coffee like she owned the place. Her hair was tied up this time. No makeup, sleeves rolled to her elbows. She didn't look like a woman who had just crossed a boundary. She looked settled, in control. I envied that. My head felt like a cement mixer. She handed me a mug without speaking. Just a quiet exchange. One hand to another. Her fingers brushed mine. Too long. Too aware. We both knew what that touch meant now. It wasn't hypothetical anymore. And then Leona walked in. She didn't look at either of us. She just grabbed her travel mug, poured her own coffee like she was refilling gas, and turned to leave the room. Not a word. Not even a fake good morning. "Didn't sleep well?" Ren asked, voice light but sharp. Leona paused, just for a moment, then turned slowly, meeting her sister's eyes. "I don't see how that's your business." Ren smiled. "I'm just being polite." Something cold passed between them. Some private history I wasn't a part of, something ancient and sharp, like old glass buried in the dirt. I felt like I shouldn't be there, but I couldn't move. "I'll be working late," Leona said, looking only at me. "Of course you will," Ren muttered, sipping her coffee. Leona ignored her and left. Just like that. No question about why I was in the guest room. No comment about Ren walking around barefoot in her house. It was like she'd decided to detach herself completely, as if the marriage was some lease she had already mentally terminated and now was just waiting for the contract to expire. When the door closed behind her, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "You should talk to her," Ren said, leaning back against the counter. "About what?" I asked, exhausted. "About what happens next." I shook my head. "You saw her. She's already gone." Ren frowned. "Then maybe you need to go too." I stared into my coffee. "It's not that easy." "It's exactly that easy," she said quietly. "You pack a bag. You walk out. And you stop waiting for someone who left you a long time ago." I wanted to believe her. But after years of routine, comfort, even if that comfort came with coldness, the idea of breaking it all felt like lighting my own life on fire. I didn't even know who I was without her. Just some quiet guy in a quiet job with no idea how to be anything but Leona's husband. Later that day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened our wedding album. It had dust on it. I sat on the floor of the bedroom and flipped through it slowly. The photos felt like they belonged to other people. Younger. Softer. There was one of us at the altar where she looked up at me like I was her whole world. I stared at that photo for too long, wondering where that woman had gone, or if she had ever existed at all. That night, Leona didn't come home. She didn't text. Didn't call. No excuses. No explanations. I checked the door twice, just to make sure she wasn't sleeping in her car or parked in the driveway waiting to fight. But it was empty. Quiet. I sat on the couch in the dark, TV off, no lights. Ren sat beside me at some point. I didn't even hear her come in. She didn't say anything. Just sat. After 10 full minutes of silence, she whispered, "She's not coming back tonight." "I know. Then you need to decide if you're staying." I looked at her. Really looked. And something inside me cracked. I don't know where I'd even go. Her voice didn't waver. "You could stay with me." I blinked. "You mean?" She cut me off. "I'm not playing games, Gilbert. I'm not trying to seduce you or ruin what's left of your marriage. I'm just telling you that you deserve a soft place to land. And if it isn't with her, it could be with me." I didn't answer. Because deep down, I already had. I didn't pack a suitcase. That would have made it feel too real, too final. Instead, I shoved a few clothes into a tote bag from the grocery store, grabbed my charger, and walked out of the house like I was heading to the gym. No note. No goodbye. Just the sound of my own heartbeat thudding in my ears as I stepped over the front mat that still said welcome even though I hadn't felt welcome there in months. Ren was waiting in the car. It wasn't some romantic getaway. There were no whispered promises or meaningful glances. She didn't even smile. She just reached over, unlocked the door, and said, "You hungry?" I hadn't eaten since breakfast. But I said no. She didn't argue. She just drove. No music. No small talk. Just the hum of the road beneath us. She lived on the edge of town in a tiny duplex she shared with an elderly woman who was out of the country for a month. The place smelled like incense and old books. I hated how instantly I felt more at peace there than I had in my own home for the past year. I sat on her couch, hands in my lap, staring at the muted TV while she poured tea. Who even drinks tea in moments like this? But it was Ren. Nothing she did was ever predictable. And somehow that calmed me. When she handed me the cup, she didn't sit down. She just stood in front of me, arms crossed, studying me. "You don't have to talk," she said. "But you do have to feel." I looked up at her. "I feel like a wreck." "Good. That means you're still human." I laughed quietly. "You have a weird way of comforting people." She shrugged. "It's why people either hate me or fall in love with me. No in between." The moment she said it, the air shifted. We both felt it. I saw it in the way her posture changed, how her arms dropped and her eyes flickered away for just a second. I don't know if she meant to say it out loud, or if it slipped, like a thought escaping through a crack in her self-control. But now it was there, sitting between us. Love, or something dangerously close to it. "I'm not ready," I said quickly, breaking the tension. "I don't even know who I am right now." Ren nodded, slowly. "I'm not asking you to be anything. I just want you to stop bleeding where no one can see it." That night, I slept on her couch. She gave me a blanket that smelled like rosemary and rain, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't wake up gasping in the middle of the night. There were no arguments, no slammed doors, no cold backs turned toward me. Just silence. A softer kind. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a single text from Leona. "Where are you?" "No, are you okay?" "No, please come home." Just those 3 words, clinical and shallow. Like she was trying to locate a package, not a person. I didn't respond. By noon, she'd sent 3 more. "You left without a word. Is this about her? Are you trying to punish me?" It was the 3rd one that made something snap. Not a dramatic snap. Not the kind that flips tables or throws dishes. A quiet one. Like a rope wearing thin in the rain, finally giving way without a sound. Because I had been the one bleeding. I had been the one begging silently for her to see me. And now that I was gone, she suddenly remembered I existed, but only as a reflection of her own guilt. I showed Ren the texts. She didn't say much. Just took my phone, turned it off, and slid it into the drawer. "You're not hers anymore," she said softly. "Not unless you say so." I stayed at Ren's for 3 days. During that time, we didn't kiss. We didn't sleep in the same bed. But we shared. We talked about things I hadn't spoken about in years. My insecurities, my fears, my quiet, creeping regret that I had wasted the best parts of myself on someone who treated my affection like a utility. And then, on the fourth day, Leona showed up. I was coming back from a walk with Ren's neighbor's dog, a tiny, angry Pomeranian named Crouton, when I saw her car parked across the street. She was leaning against it, arms folded, sunglasses on like she was starring in some made-for-TV courtroom drama. "Seriously?" she said when I crossed the street. "You don't answer texts now?" I looked down at Crouton, who seemed entirely uninterested in my emotional crisis. "You're not entitled to a response just because I finally stopped disappearing in silence." Leona pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. I wasn't sure if it was from crying or just a long drive. "I didn't think you'd actually leave, Gilbert. You told me you didn't want to kiss me. What did you think was going to happen?" She looked away, exhaled. "You always took everything so literally." That hit harder than I expected. Because it was true. I had taken her words seriously. I always had. When she said she loved me, I believed it. When she said she was tired, I made space. When she said she needed time, I gave it. And when she said she didn't want to kiss me, I let that be the end of us. "Are you with her?" she asked finally. I paused. And then I told the truth. "No, but I could be. And that scares you more than losing me ever did." She didn't respond. And in that silence, I realized she didn't deny it. Leona didn't leave right away. She just stood there beside her car, like she was waiting for the weight of her presence to drag me back to her. And for a long time, I didn't move either. The air between us wasn't heavy, it was hollow, like everything had already been said, but neither of us knew how to say goodbye without making it official. "I didn't cheat," she said finally, as if that erased everything. I gave her a half laugh. Not mocking, just tired. "You don't have to cross a line for me to know you walked away." She blinked, stunned. I don't think she expected that from me. I think she came here anticipating a mess, me breaking down, begging for clarity, trying to hold together the broken thing she didn't want to fix. But I had no begging left in me. I was standing on the ashes, and all I could feel was relief that I'd finally stopped burning just to keep us warm. "I was lost, Gilbert," she said, a little softer now. "You don't know what it's like, feeling like your whole identity is wrapped around someone who doesn't light you up anymore." That one hurt. Because it was real. It was raw. And part of me wanted to say I know exactly what that's like, Leona. I've lived it. I'm still living it. But I didn't. I just nodded. She looked toward the house. "Are you going to stay here? With her?" I followed her gaze. Ren was standing inside the window, barely visible through the curtain. She wasn't watching us. Not exactly. But she was present, just like she always was, never hiding, never apologizing for her place in the story. "I'm not staying with her," I said. "I'm staying somewhere I don't feel invisible." Leona winced, then crossed her arms again. But this time it wasn't defiance, it was defense. "You're blowing this up like I'm some monster. You don't think I felt alone too? Then why didn't you say something?" "Because every time I tried, you just got smaller, quieter. You disappeared before I even finished talking." I didn't expect that. And I couldn't lie, it landed. That was the thing about me. When something hurt, I shrank. I retreated. I didn't fight back. I just collapsed inward like a folding chair. And maybe that's why she stopped trying to reach me. Maybe that's why she chose to connect with someone who made her feel seen. Even if it was in secret, even if it was only digital and unspoken. But that still didn't excuse what followed. And it certainly didn't erase the moment she said she didn't want to kiss me again. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. And I realized she didn't know. So I walked away. I didn't storm off or slam anything. I just turned my back on her, walked up the porch steps, and opened the door to Ren's place. And before I stepped inside, I said it, without turning around. "You never lost me, Leona. You just stopped looking." That was the last thing I said to her for a while. Inside, Ren didn't ask what happened. She didn't push. She just handed me a warm mug of something that tasted like cloves and orange peel, and said, "You look like you said something you've been holding for too long." I nodded. It didn't fix anything. It wasn't supposed to. That night, I slept in her bed. Still no physical line crossed. But the emotional one had been obliterated. We lay side by side in the dark, not touching, not speaking for a long time. But the silence between us felt different now. It wasn't empty. It was expectant, charged, like the quiet before a thunderstorm finally lets go. I used to be jealous of you, I whispered. Ren turned toward me. Of me? You were chaotic, loud, unfiltered. You said what you meant, even when it hurt. I always thought it was annoying. But now I realize. I was just scared of it. She didn't respond right away. Then, softly. And now? Now I think I need it. We didn't kiss that night. But the closeness was louder than any kiss could have been. Her fingers brushed mine under the covers. She didn't grab my hand. She just made it clear she was there, and she wasn't going to vanish the second it got uncomfortable. That morning, I checked my phone for the first time in over 24 hours. One new message from Leona. Just a single sentence. I'm going to file. There was no name attached. No dramatic paragraph. Just the end, printed in black and white. Ren looked over my shoulder. She didn't say anything at first. Then she simply asked, "Do you want to stop her?" And the truth that came out of my mouth surprised even me. No, I want to let her. The morning she filed for divorce should have felt like a defeat. But it didn't. It felt like the exhale I'd been holding for years. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even numb. I was clear. And clarity, after all that confusion, was a gift. Ren didn't celebrate it. She didn't say, "I told you so," or crack one of her edgy jokes about how this was inevitable. She just made 2 cups of coffee, handed me one, and sat next to me on the porch while the world carried on like it always had. We watched a stray cat chase leaves across the sidewalk, and I thought to myself, this is what peace feels like. Leona didn't fight the process. We exchanged a few civil emails. She asked for the living room furniture, which I gladly gave her. I didn't want the couch where I'd spent so many nights waiting for her to walk back into a marriage she had already left. We signed the papers at separate times. I didn't cry. In the weeks that followed, I moved into a small apartment above a bookstore downtown. Nothing fancy, just enough space for me, my thoughts, and my slowly rebuilding self. Ren helped paint the walls. She insisted on an obnoxious shade of green for the kitchen, and I didn't argue. I hated it at first, but now, it makes me smile every morning. We didn't jump into anything right away. We were careful, intentional. We talked more than we touched. We listened more than we assumed. And eventually, without pressure or urgency, we allowed something to bloom, not out of the ruins of what had been, but out of something new, something gentle. She kissed me for the first time under a flickering street lamp in front of my building. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, warm, and exactly what I needed. And when she pulled away, she whispered, "Finally." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm still figuring out who I am outside of someone else's expectations. But now I know what I don't want. To ever be invisible again. And that starts with being honest, not just with others, but with myself. Ren didn't save me. I saved myself. She just reminded me I was worth saving. And if you're still here, reading this, maybe that's the part you needed to hear. Maybe you've been shrinking to fit inside a relationship that stopped making space for you. Maybe you've been quiet too long. Let me say this, from one whiny, awkward, slow-healing person to another. You are allowed to leave the room when no one listens. You are allowed to stop fighting for someone who stopped noticing you were there. You are allowed to begin again. Thank you for following this story. And now, let me ask you something. Left speech bubble, have you ever had a moment when you finally walked away from a relationship, a friendship, a job, and everything changed? Share your story in the comments. I want to hear it. We all do. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more powerful, true-to-life stories just like this one. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's the only one you've got.